Welcome to our webinar and followed by a Q&A session. Today we are talking about ASTQB, which is the American Software Testing Qualifications Board, how that relates to ISTQB, the International Software Testing Qualifications Board. And then we'll also talk about a third entity, which is AT SQA, or as we often call it, AT SQA. I'm Dave Stevens. I am the Executive Director of AT SQA. We are the official ISTQB exam provider for ASTQB. Today we're joined by Andrew Pollner, who is the President of ASTQB, and he will explain what all of these acronyms mean, how they relate together, and why it makes any sense for you to even pay attention. So we're going to talk about how this will help your career, help your skills development with regard to software quality. And during the course of the presentation, if you do have questions, there is a questions box in your go-to webinar information or in your control panel. Go ahead and feel free to enter your question there, and we will address those at the end. In the meantime, I want to turn it over to Andrew so he can now answer all those questions that you probably already have, and hopefully he'll hit them as he goes along. But again, if you have questions, feel free to type them in and we will answer them at the end. Andrew.
Thank you very much, Dave, and welcome to everybody who's joining this evening. We are very excited to share with you anything you might want to know about certifications. So let's get started here. As Dave mentioned, I'm the president of ASTQB, and I also participate in two working groups at the ISTQB level, the Performance Testing Working Group and the Advanced Test Automation Engineering Working Group. And those working groups are the groups that actually help develop the syllabi from which the exams themselves are created. And then my day job is president of ALP International, a testing company. That's the one that pays the bills. So let's talk a little bit about ISTQB. So ISTQB is a global organization, and I'll explain a little bit the relationship between ISTQB and ASTQB. So the vision for ISTQB is really to advance software testing in the industry, to really develop the best possible techniques in testing, to encourage research in the area of software testing, and to develop and publish what we call a body of knowledge. Now, ISTQB was founded back in the year 2002. It is a nonprofit organization. ISTQB has 59 member boards. What that means is that countries from around the world support the ISTQB scheme and contribute to the development of the syllabi. And there's 59 member boards, and those boards actually represent over 82 countries worldwide. The ISTQB certification is actually the third largest non-IT specific certification in the world, followed by only PMI and ITIL. And there are 17 different certifications all around software testing in the product portfolio. So would you venture to guess how many certifications have been issued worldwide? Here's numbers ranging from 80,000 to 605,000. So let me show you a little bit of history in terms of certifications. Back in July of 2008, that's a long time ago, there were 80,000 people that were certified with ISTQB certifications. By July of 2011, that number jumped up to 200,000 certifications. By July of 2016, that number jumped up to 475,000. And by July of 2018, it was already over 600,000 people certified. Well, the last figures that are reported are from October of last year, and that number is already 673,000 plus. So we're probably at this point over 700,000. That's almost 750,000 people around the world with this certification. So clearly it's a very popular certification. We'll talk about why. If you look globally, you see that most countries and most continents around the world have great coverage, either by specific member boards or by member boards that serve that particular area where there isn't a member board. So there's great coverage globally. So the ASTQB is the American board for ISTQB. So what we do is we create the examinations in the US. Now, ASTQB is also a nonprofit, volunteer-based organization, and we were founded quite a while ago, back in 2003. And we're headquartered in Tampa. We've had offices there for many years. So what does ASTQB do? Well, as I mentioned, we actually contribute to the development of ISTQB syllabi. When you think of who ISTQB is, it's really nothing more than all the various member boards. It could be the American board, the Canadian board, the German board. All these boards around the world coming together is what's called ISTQB. So we contribute and have contributed to most of the syllabi by either leading those efforts or being writers or reviewers for those syllabi. Now, ASTQB also accredits training providers in the US. What does it mean to accredit training providers? So the courses that are listed on our website on astqb.org, the training providers that offer those courses, all of their materials have been reviewed quite carefully to make sure that if you take classes from the training providers, that you can be assured that the material will very closely match exactly what should be learned in the syllabus and in the right ratio of time, so that a topic that's supposed to take 3 hours to teach should be more than 1 or 2 slides. And we make sure that the materials themselves are of very high quality, so that people can be assured of getting good training from those folks that are accredited. Now, in addition to the standard accreditation, ASTQB a few years ago developed a program that's called Proficiency Distinction. And what that's about is a lot of people in the industry talk about the fact that certifications may not be practical enough, and everybody's looking for practical. So what we did was we decided that if our training providers provided an extra level of quality of practical exercises in their materials, then we would award anybody who passed the exam proficiency distinction if they took a class that had that extra practical content in it. So we as a board in the US, ASTQB is able to add that practical element by making sure that certain training providers have that extra level of practical exercises that really help you apply the concepts that you learn from the training, from the syllabus, to real day, real world testing kinds of situations. And for veterans in the US, ASTQB exams are fully reimbursable through the Veterans Administration's GI Bill. So that's an extra benefit. If any of you happen to be US veterans, the exams themselves will be fully reimbursable. So if we look at the original map of what the certifications look like, when the program first started, we had the foundation level certification, which everybody needed to take, and that has not changed. And then from there, people would move up to one of the 3 advanced level certifications: test manager for your managers or your leads, test analysts for your more senior testers, and technical test analysts for your developers and more of your technical folks that are looking at a lot of the non-functional test attributes. Now, currently, what ISTQB shows on their website is a much expanded program. So in addition to that middle section, there's now an Agile section on the left that includes a foundation level Agile and an advanced Agile. And on the right side, we now have specialist modules. And these specialist modules range from model-based testing and usability all the way up to the advanced level for security and test automation. Now, what ASTQB has done is essentially reorganize that information into something that is easier to understand. So what we do is we show here that on the very left, everybody needs to start with the foundational concepts of testing. So we have the CTFL, the foundation level certification. Now, once you've taken that, then you have two choices. If you're a career tester and you're trying to build your career in testing, and you see that your programs are changing from the standard waterfall methodology to more agile testing, you have the agile certification. If you want to become more advanced and learn more about different specification-based test techniques and explore how to do combinatorial testing, etc., that would be test analyst. If you are, on the other hand, more development-oriented and looking at testing for maintainability and reusability of code, the technical test analyst is there for you. And if you're concerned with managing a test team and reporting and process improvement type of activities, then you have both the test manager and ultimately the expert level test manager. So that's kind of for your career tester, the traditional tester, and of course there's a lot of you out there. Now on the right side, we basically have testing skills, right? So you may have a developer or a DBA who's not necessarily a tester, but maybe he gets called in to do some performance testing. And maybe he doesn't know all that he needs to know or she needs to know about performance testing. So what we can do is through the specialized certifications such as performance testing, mobile testing, etc., we have the ability to get people to learn new skills that they need for the job at the moment. It may not be part of their overall career, or maybe it is, but at least it gives them some flavor for how to do things, how to do them right, how to do them efficiently, and how to be productive when it comes to using some of the test tools that are needed to do some of that work. So on the right hand here, we have essentially all of the specialist certifications, and those are very popular these days. Everything from model-based testing to performance testing, usability testing, and of course one of the ones that we hear about very often is test automation. Everybody wants to know about test automation. So let's talk a little bit about exams. Now, examinations are very important, right? When you take an exam, you want to make sure that that exam is actually testing what you learned in the class, what you learned through self-study. So it's really important that you are taking a quality exam that really tests your knowledge well and does it fairly. In our case, we have a panel of experts that develop exam questions. They do psychometric analysis. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but it's the science of really understanding whether or not questions perform well, so that if everybody's getting the same answer incorrectly, it often means that it's not necessarily that people don't know the answer, but maybe the question wasn't phrased well. So by doing psychometric analysis, we can, on a regular basis, check the performance of the exams and rotate questions in and out, and that keeps everything working well and fairly. Now, ASTQB exams are also offered on a global basis, even though they're intended for U.S. consumption because of the platforms that we have, and I'll get to that here shortly. They are available globally. And ASTQB, in addition to what I mentioned before with the proficiency distinction, has a really nice benefit. We have what we call our free advance retake benefit. So what that means is that if you've taken the foundation exam, the ASTQB foundation exam, and then you've decided, I really want to go for test automation or security testing or test analyst because I really want to further develop my testing career, and those are topics that are of great interest to me and will help me professionally. But maybe you have a little trepidation in terms of, will this be too difficult for me and what have you. So we have a policy that says, if you take an advanced level course with one of our accredited training providers where we know the quality of those materials, and we know that they'll be able to really help you learn the materials and help you pass that exam, we actually provide that free retake option. So basically, if you were to take a course with one of our accredited partners and trainers, and if for any reason you did not pass on the first go around, you would get a second try within 4 months. Nice benefit there. Now let's talk about where you can take exams. So traditionally, exams were done either at company locations when a training occurred or when self-study occurred, and a proctor would be scheduled for that location. That was one option. And then the other option traditionally was that you would go to a test center and sit for the exam. You would schedule yourself at a particular time and day. Now, we are still globally with this COVID pandemic, which unfortunately has made it very difficult for a lot of individuals to return physically to work. A lot of people are working from home now. And because of that, ISTQB has made an exception and said that at least through October, and we're hoping this continues, but all exams that are taken through October, there is now the option to take that exam remotely. So rather than you having to go to a test center and possibly put your health at risk in doing so, you can actually take the exams from comfort of home, if that's where you're working. Or if you're at the office, you can take it from the office. But again, the point is to minimize having to get out and expose yourself just to take the exam. So the remote online proctored exam essentially requires you to configure your PC so that it can be used to take the exam at home. And there are some specific configuration requirements. So in some cases, it may not work, but in most cases, it should not be a problem. And again, if you happen to live in an area that doesn't have a lot of COVID exposure and it's safe to go out, and you do have testing centers that are open for business, by all means, you can go to those test centers. They have the computers all set up, and they are taking all the precautions like any other businesses. And then the third option is and has been for private exams. That's where we send the proctor to the particular facility. It could be a company, it could be a trade show, it could be any number of things. Now, a lot of trade shows right now are going virtual for the next few months. Hopefully that'll start changing soon. But some companies are still doing requests for a proctor, and they have people, spread out in a conference room 6 feet apart, and they're able to take tests there. And for that last option, whereas the tests have traditionally been paper exams, now we actually have the option for them to take the exam on a laptop. So you would have a proctor with a laptop, and each examinee would be sitting with a laptop. And the benefit there is that you get to learn the results right away at the conclusion of the exam, and you don't have to wait. It's all much more efficient. So those are the ways in which you can take exams. If you're doing it individually, the home option is probably the best option. Now, Dave mentioned AT SQA. So AT SQA stands for the Association for Testing Software Quality Assurance. Now, AT SQA is also a nonprofit organization, and it is the arm that does the administration of ASTQB developed exams. So we at ASTQB, we develop the questions, we do the analysis, but in terms of actually administering the exams, proctoring the exams, all of that is now taken care of by AT SQA, our partner. And AT SQA, what they do is they have a common interface that allows you to create an account and specify what exams you want to take, and then that common interface basically integrates with two global exam delivery solutions that are some of the top technical platforms that exist in the marketplace for exam delivery. So we have not one but two of them that we use for delivering exams. And what AT SQA does is it really helps automate a lot of the processes that have to do with registration of exams, selection of exam centers, and then even functions such as self-service. Like, let's say you lost your certificate and your employer is asking you for proof that you are certified. You can actually request that certificate through the online portal and a number of other things. So AT SQA does the administration, and ASTQB focuses on the examination. Now, AT SQA and ASTQB work very closely, and we like to poll the industry and find out what things people are interested in. And this is the results from a recent poll that we did. And what it basically shows is, in the yellow, it's like, what are the things that people are most interested in? And of course, the poll in the 10th, as they say, the one that sticks out the most is automated testing. So automated testing is always something that's very popular in the marketplace, and we do have one certification, and we're looking at things to do for other certifications. Others, for instance, performance testing, usability testing, mobile testing also rank very high, and we're happy to say that we also have certifications for those. Then there's other topics, new topics such as artificial intelligence and machine learning, DevOps. Those are all things that people are also interested in, and some of those we don't have anything today to offer, but hopefully in the future we will have. So this is important because it kind of lets us know what people are interested in knowing some basic information about, or what they have as a high level of interest. Now, ASTQB also is there to support testing communities. We have a newsletter that we put out several times a year, and we invite people to write articles about testing, about maybe something that they did on their project that they might want to share, where others could learn from that. We have events sometimes, like we have an event right now with you folks, but we also have webinars and other events on a variety of topics that help people kind of learn and understand how to apply better testing processes. And for those organizations that have user groups around the country, we're happy to support them and work with them. We also have, as I mentioned, on the website, our list of accredited training providers. And lastly, we often do require volunteers to help with different projects that we may have. It could be helping write exam questions, which obviously requires some training on how to do that. It could be supporting some of the working groups where new syllabi development might be happening. So there are opportunities, and we'd like to hear from folks who want to get involved. So how do certifications, how do they really help advance the testing profession? So here's 10 points, but there's probably 100 different points. But let's go through these. So first of all, by having the certification, it really helps to demonstrate professional competency. And when you're talking about something like proficiency distinction, it's really showing that not only have you learned and have you been tested, but you've also done some very practical things. So you're going to be able to hit the ground running with your foundation level certification. Number two, it speeds up software development. Well, how does it do that? Well, if everybody is talking on the same language, using the same terms or the same understanding of what the issues are, communication is more effective, it's more efficient, and people are able to actually interface better. Number three, cost savings and return on investment. So basically, if you have a situation where you found some major defect in a production system, there's a high cost to that, to go all the way back to development, to have to redevelop, reinstantiate the code, retest it, put it back in your different test lab environments, deploy that code again. That all costs a lot of money. And the money that you can save on just taking a course and becoming certified more than pays for itself in terms of that. Now, another area that we find is that when you have folks on a project who are already certified, and a lot of companies like to try to get all of their testers certified, when we have folks that want to join that company, if that individual already comes certified to that company, it really relieves a lot of the load of the more senior folks, because what that person can do is immediately understand how they're testing, what their test methodology is, and kind of talk the same talk and integrate more quickly. Certifications, we have, remember, not only foundational level ones, we have advanced level ones. Those motivate people who are career testers to do their best. What we found is that organizations that actually tend to support certification and pay for people to become certified tend to retain their employees more, because people want to have professional development. One of the things that I said in conferences in the past is that there is no education or let's say degree in software testing. Nobody goes to get a bachelor's degree in testing or a master's in testing or a PhD. That does not exist yet, unlike other disciplines like engineering. So often, folks like yourselves who are involved in software testing in a career, you kind of wonder, okay, what do you need to do to develop your career? What kinds of things can you do? And here's where certification really helps to do that. And once you have the certification, you have that recognition. Because numbers speak for themselves, there are so many people worldwide that are certified that when people show that they are certified, it means something. And often employers and even the federal government and some state and local governments are now starting to put ISTQB certification as part of the requirement for the tester to join on the project. So having the certification is really very important. Again, keeping key employees by motivating them, by having them be certified is very important, and bringing consistency to projects and programs is very helpful when everybody understands and has a common terminology, common methodology, common best practices. And let's face it, if everybody does that and everybody works more efficiently, more effectively, if you can use tools such as automation tools more effectively and architect them in a way that they're going to keep on working and they're not going to just create problems for you on that next release, you end up reducing the overall deployment risk. Once your software is out, you'll be able to actually provide better quality software. And finally, from an end user perspective, what certification helps is that your clients, whatever software you are delivering to your clients, whomever that client may be, if it's the department down the hall from you, if it's actually a customer, commercial customer, if it's a government customer, that client will receive software that works better initially without all the problems that typically people face. So, in conclusion, what have we covered? Well, we know now that ISTQB in the United States is called ASTQB, and that ASTQB's primary focus is to deliver ISTQB exams in the US and worldwide as well. AT SQA is the organization that does the administration of those exams, and the certifications themselves show ASTQB and ISTQB. So it shows that it's an ISTQB certification that's granted by the American board. And of course, ASTQB makes sure that the training providers that you might consider for training have been vetted, their course materials have been looked at, and they don't get on the website unless they meet the stringent requirement of making sure that those materials match what the syllabus requires to be covered, and not only that they match the topics, but that they match the timing, so that topics that require hours of discussion should be described in hours, and topics that can be covered in 15 minutes should be discussed in 15 minutes. So it's very important to be precise about that and provide the right level of discussion for the right topic. Finally, ASTQB supports testing communities, as we talked about earlier, and what we like to do best is promote the professionalism in software testing. With that, I will hand the presentation back to Dave to see what questions have come up that we can answer. But before we do that, I will just say that on the website, astqb.org, there's a number of resources, all freely available for you. There's the syllabi, there are the sample exams, there's the glossary. The glossary is the terminology, and there's two versions of the glossary. There's the static glossary, which is all of the terms across all of the syllabi, and there's also a dynamic option where you can say, I'm studying for the advanced level test automation engineer syllabus, and I only want to see the terms for that particular syllabus. So you can specify terminology by syllabus. We have a large number of white papers that you can download, and webinars and podcasts that you can view that have been previously recorded. And we have the information on both proficiency distinction and the free advanced retake. So all of that information, a lot of resources, all of it available for you at ASTQB.org. I almost said at SQA. Some of that information is available there too. One of the main things that we have available at SQA, by the way, is a list of the certified individuals in the U.S. Now, why is that important? For two reasons. Organizations want to know who has been certified by the American board. The American board provides excellent quality exams, and people want to make sure that their teams have that consistent level of having taken exams, number one. Number two, for those individuals that took a course from a training provider that had the proficiency distinction, those certifications will show up not only as an ISTQB certification, they'll also show up as having proficiency distinction. The database that ASTQB has dates back, 10, 15 years or more since we've started doing this. Now, you may have seen as well that on ISTQB, there is a candidate registry as well. And that candidate registry lists candidates that have taken exams, but that list really only started happening a few years ago. So it's not the most complete list. It does show candidates from around the world. That is a benefit. But if you want the complete list of who is certified by ASTQB and who has proficiency distinction, that's the list that's found on AT SQA. So I think I've covered all the points. Dave will remind me if I didn't. We have a Q&A time now to talk a little bit more about any topics that you have brought up during the presentation.
Thanks, Andrew. Great information as usual, very helpful.